Okay. So now we're going to get more into a little bit of trig. We're going to get away from our tool, the unit circle, and we're going to get more into a little bit of basic trig. So I'm going to put trig up here again. All right. Now, normally you'll be given a triangle with one of the angles is 90 degrees. It's called a right angle. So it's called a right triangle. When you have a triangle where one of the angles is 90 degrees, it's called a right triangle. So that would be an example of a right triangle. But also this would be an example of a right triangle, right? So you don't know which way it's going to face when you get a problem. Some of your problems might have the right angle here. Some of the problems might have the right angle there. Okay, so either way they give you the triangle, you still have to be able to do the problem. Once you get all these tips, you'll be okay. Now, when you're given a triangle, what they're going to do is the following. There are 6 trig definitions that I'm going to talk about. There are 3 main ones. Ready? So the 3 main trig definitions. Okay? Here are the 3 main trig definitions. There is the sine of an angle, and again, we'll use the Greek letter theta to stand for some angle. This is like x for angles. If you see this, you know they're talking about an angle, an unknown angle. So this is the sine of an angle. It's not sin. It's read as sine. It's short for sinusoidal. Sine of an angle, sine of theta, is equal to, and these are the trig definitions. When I refer to the definitions, it is going to be equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Again, HYP is the abbreviation for hypotenuse. The second one is the cosine, and this is read cos, but it's read as cosine. It looks like cos, but you're going to read it as cosine. This is short for cosine. So this is the cosine of theta, and the definition of cosine is adjacent. ADJ is the abbreviation for adjacent, which means next to, over the hypotenuse. And the third main trig definition is the tangent. Even though I'm using TAN, you're going to read that as tangent of theta. Good. And the definition of tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. Now, which one of these trig definitions does not involve the hypotenuse?
The tangent.
Very good. So if you don't know the hypotenuse, chances are that you'll be using either the sine or the cosine, because they both involve the hypotenuse. The tangent is the only definition that you can get straight away without knowing directly, without having to know the hypotenuse directly. See that? Okay. So those are your 3 main trig definitions. When you're given a problem, they're going to indicate to you which angle they're talking about, and that's the first thing you should ask them. If they ask you for one of these 3 trig definitions of your problem, you should always say, well, which angle are you talking about? So once they label the angle they're talking about, such as in this problem, I'll be talking about this angle right here, I'll label it as theta. Once we know which of the 2 angles they're talking about, now, they'll never be talking about the right angle. It's always going to be either this angle or this angle, all right? So it'll be this or this or that. But the right angle won't be the one we'll be talking about. So I've indicated that my theta is this angle right here. Once we know which angle we're talking about, that's when we can label our sides, okay? So we have to label our 3 sides in reference to the location from this angle. And that's the part that messes everybody up. So please pay attention right here. The side directly opposite this angle is this side right here. You agree?
Yes.
We're going to label that as opposite. We're going to abbreviate it as OPP. That stands for opposite. That is the side that's directly opposite from this angle right here, from our theta. Now, the other side there are 2 sides next to this angle. This angle is sitting right here. There's this side right here and this side down here. You agree with that?
Yes.
The side next to this angle that's not the hypotenuse. So which side would that be? Here or down here?
The bottom one.
Yes. The side next to this angle that's not the hypotenuse, we're going to label this as next to. We use the word adjacent, which means next to. So this is the side next to our angle that's not the hypotenuse. I'm going to label that adjacent. Adjacent means next to. Now, it doesn't matter which of these two angles I indicate, the hypotenuse will always be the side directly opposite the right angle. So this side has to be the hypotenuse. You follow?
Yes.
Okay. So again, whenever you're given a problem, the first thing you're going to want to do is label your sides, but in reference to their location from the angle that we're talking about. Okay? Now, if I had given you this problem right here, if I had given you a triangle that looked maybe something like this, and I said, okay, here's our right angle, and if I had said this is angle A, this is angle A, this is angle B, and this is angle C, whenever we label with letters A, B, and C, the side directly opposite the right angle has to be C. Okay? And remember I said earlier, the sides opposite the angle have the same letter but lowercase. So here is our right angle. It has to be C. These other twos could be A or B. It doesn't matter if this is A and this is B, or this is A and this is B, but the right angle has to be capital C, and the side directly opposite has to be the same letter but lowercase. So this would be side C. This side will be side B, because it's directly opposite this letter, this side, this angle. And this angle directly opposite is this side, and that will have the same letter but lowercase a, right? Now, if I tell you that I am referencing the angle A up here, so this is my angle that I'm referencing, whenever they tell you that we're talking about this specific angle, that's when you can now label your sides opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, all right? Now, we always label the side that's directly opposite our angle first. Here's our angle. What letter side is directly opposite this angle?
A.
So then we label this side opposite. You follow?
Yes.
And then the side next to this angle that's not the hypotenuse, which side would that be?
Lowercase b.
Very good. We'll label that ADJ, which is adjacent. And then finally, the side directly opposite our right angle has to be the hypotenuse. Okay? So that's a little bit on labeling the triangles. Now, let me go ahead